I went to the police station to report a lost wallet. I didn't expect to leave with a man. He had no phone, no ID, and refused to tell anyone his name. He wouldn't talk to the officers, but he followed me like I was the only person in the room. They asked if I knew him. I said no. They asked if I could take responsibility for him. Just for one night. I should have said no, because that one night turned into days, then weeks, and somewhere between teaching him how to use a microwave and realizing he'd memorized my work schedule, I stopped trying to send him away, especially after I found out who he really was, because the quiet, strange man sleeping on my couch wasn't lost at all. He was running away, and for some reason, he chose me as the place to hide. Chapter 1. Lin Yuchen's day had already gone downhill before the police station got involved. First, he overslept. Then his boss sent 3 gentle reminder messages in a row, which in corporate language meant please explain why you're still alive instead of at work. Then he realized his wallet was missing. Not misplaced. Gone. Which was how he ended up standing outside a police station at 8 in the evening, holding a plastic bag of convenience store dumplings that had gone cold and slightly sweaty. I should have just canceled my cards, he muttered. Normal people cancel cards. They don't come to police stations like they're reporting a missing person. A middle-aged man exiting the building gave him a concerned look and walked faster. Yuchen sighed and pushed the door open. The station smelled faintly of disinfectant, old paper, and instant noodles. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, flattening everything into dull shades of gray. There were only a few people inside. 2 officers behind the front desk. A woman filling out paperwork. And Yuchen stopped mid-step. At the far end of the waiting area sat a man who looked like he had wandered in from a completely different universe. He was tall even while seated, long legs folded awkwardly under a too small plastic chair. His posture was straight, not stiff but controlled, like someone trained never to slouch. Broad shoulders stretched the dark fabric of a simple coat, tapering down to a narrow waist. His hands rested on his knees, long fingers relaxed but still. Black hair, slightly too long, fell across his forehead in soft strands that somehow looked intentional instead of messy. His face, Yuchen blinked, his face was the kind people paid to see on billboards. Sharp jawline, straight nose, lips pressed into a neutral line that somehow still looked elegant. But it was his eyes that were unsettling. Dark, focused, completely fixed on Yuchen. Why is he staring at me? Yuchen whispered. The man did not look away. Yuchen glanced behind him to check if there was someone else. There wasn't. Okay, he muttered, turning back toward the desk. Not my business. Very not my business. But the back of his neck prickled as if he were being watched by a very large, very handsome predator. Hello, the officer said. How can we help you? Yuchen launched into an explanation about his missing wallet, trying very hard not to glance over his shoulder. He failed after 3 seconds. The man was still staring. Worse, he had leaned forward slightly, like he was making absolutely sure Yuchen didn't disappear. Yuchen's voice cracked. And, it's black, leather, kind of boring looking, unlike my personality, which is irrelevant. The officer nodded politely. ID. That's the problem, Yuchen said weakly. While filling out forms, he couldn't stop sneaking glances. Up close earlier that afternoon, the man had been intimidating. Because yes, they had met before. Briefly. Unavoidably. It had happened outside a crosswalk near Yuchen's office. The man had been standing there without moving even when the light turned green, people flowing around him like water around a stone. Not confused. Not distracted. Just still. Yuchen, being terminally incapable of minding his own business, had tapped his shoulder. Hey, you should probably cross before someone runs you over. The man had turned his head slowly. Up close, he was even taller. Close enough that Yuchen had to tilt his chin up, which he resented immediately. Those dark eyes had studied him for a long, silent moment, as if memorizing his face. Then Yuchen noticed the faint scrape on his knuckles, the lack of a phone, the way his coat, though simple, was clearly expensive. Are you okay? Yuchen had asked. A pause. I don't know where to go, the man had said quietly. His voice was low, steady, and unexpectedly gentle. Yuchin's brain had short-circuited. He ended up buying the man a bottle of water from a vending machine and awkwardly pointing toward a taxi stand. There. You can, go somewhere. The man had accepted the bottle with both hands, like it was something fragile. Thank you, he said. Yuchin fled immediately, convinced he had just participated in something deeply strange. And now that same man was sitting in a police station staring at him like he was the only solid object in the room. Mr. Lin. Yuchin jolted. Yes. Please wait while we process this. He turned to sit down. There were plenty of empty seats. He chose one as far from the man as possible. 3 seconds later, the chair beside him creaked. Yuchin froze. Slowly, mechanically, he turned his head. The man had moved. Not just moved, he had relocated his entire 6-foot-something existence to the seat directly next to Yuchin. Up close, he felt even bigger. Warmth radiated from him, subtle but unmistakable. The faint scent of clean fabric and something expensive, woodsy, understated, replaced the station's disinfectant smell. Yuchin's brain screamed. Hi, he said weakly. The man looked at him. Hello. Oh no. His voice was even nicer up close. They sat in silence. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Yuchin became acutely aware of everything. How broad the man's shoulders were, how their knees were almost touching, how absurdly long his eyelashes were, how unfair it was for someone to look like this while ruining a stranger's peace. Finally, he cracked. Do you need something? The man shook his head. Then, after a pause, I was told to wait. That's good, Yuchin said quickly. Waiting is excellent. Big fan of waiting. Love waiting. Why was he talking like this? At the desk, one of the officers watched them thoughtfully. He walked over. Sir, he said to Yuchin. Do you know this man? Yuchin choked. No. I mean, sort of. We met earlier today for like 2 minutes. That does not qualify as knowing someone. I don't even know his name. The officer looked at the man. Can you tell us your name, sir? Silence. The man didn't even glance at him. His gaze stayed on Yuchin. Yuchin felt like a spotlight had been turned on him against his will. See, he said nervously. Not talking. Do you have identification? Nothing. Anyone you can call? Nothing. Yuchin leaned slightly away. I swear I'm not involved in whatever this is. The officer sighed. He hasn't responded to any questions since he came in, but he followed you the moment you walked through the door. Yuchin's soul left his body. He what? The officer gave him a sympathetic look. Sir, would you be willing to take temporary responsibility for him tonight? Silence fell like a dropped brick. Yuchin stared. At the officer. At the man. Back at the officer. My options are? Otherwise he'll have to stay here until we can identify him. Yuchin looked at the man again. Those dark eyes were watching him quietly, intently. Not pleading, not demanding, just waiting. Like he had already decided Yuchin was the answer. Yuchin swallowed. This is how horror movies start, he whispered. Then, because his self-preservation instincts had always been defective, he said, just 1 night. The officer smiled with visible relief. Just 1 night. Outside, the night air was cool. Yuchin walked toward the subway entrance. Footsteps followed. He stopped. The footsteps stopped. Slowly, he turned around. The man stood behind him, tall, calm, impossibly handsome under the streetlights. Why? Yuchin said faintly. Are you walking behind me? A pause. Then the man answered, as if it were obvious. I'm staying with you. Yuchin looked up at the sky. Mom, he said softly. If you can hear me, I'm sorry for everything I ever did. Chapter 2. Ichun did not plan on bringing a stranger home, especially not one who looked like he had stepped out of a luxury perfume commercial and into a disaster. Yet here they were. The elevator doors slid open onto Ichun's floor with a soft mechanical chime. The man beside him remained silent, One hand braced lightly against the wall as if the short ride had taken more effort than he wanted to show. Up close, under the harsh fluorescent light, the damage was clearer. A shallow cut near the temple. Dried blood tangled in dark hair. Faint bruising already blooming along the jawline. His clothes, expensive Ichun realized belatedly, were dusty, wrinkled, and torn at the shoulder. Not drunk. Not homeless. Not careless. Something had happened. Ichun hesitated outside his apartment door, key hovering in the lock. "You don't have to come in," he said finally, without turning around. "I can call a taxi. Or a hospital." Silence stretched behind him. "I don't know where to go," the man said. The voice was low, steady, and empty in a way that made Ichun's chest tighten. Not sad. Not desperate. Just blank. Ichun closed his eyes briefly. Great. Fantastic. Of course. He unlocked the door. The apartment lights flicked on, revealing a small but neat living space. Sofa, coffee table, bookshelves, a compact kitchen tucked against one wall. Nothing luxurious, but warm, lived in, unmistakably personal. The man stepped inside slowly, gaze moving across the room with careful attention, as if committing every detail to memory, or trying to. Ichun noticed the slight stiffness in his posture, the way his shoulders remained subtly tense, like someone prepared for something to go wrong at any moment. "Sit," Ichun said, gesturing to the sofa. Carefully, the man obeyed, lowering himself with controlled movements that confirmed Ichun's suspicion. He was definitely injured. Ichun disappeared into the bathroom and returned with a first aid kit, dropping onto the coffee table across from him. "I'm not a doctor," he said, "but I know how to clean a wound without killing you." A faint flicker crossed the man's eyes. "Reassuring." Ichun snorted. "Don't get sarcastic. I could still kick you out." "You will not." The certainty in that quiet statement made Ichun pause. "You're very confident for someone bleeding on my furniture." "I apologize." "Don't apologize. Just lean forward." When the man leaned closer, the distance between them collapsed abruptly. Ichun became painfully aware of everything at once. The heat radiating from him, the faint clean scent beneath the dust and blood, the sharp line of his collarbone visible through the torn shirt, and his eyes. Up close, they weren't simply dark. They were intense, focused entirely on Ichun with an attention that felt almost intimate. Ichun's fingers faltered for half a second before he forced himself to continue. "Hold still." "I am holding still. More still." "I am not breathing." "Okay, that's too still. You can breathe." A barely audible huff of amusement escaped the man, the first hint of personality Ichun had seen. It did something extremely inconvenient to Ichun's heartbeat. He cleaned the cut carefully, dabbing antiseptic with practiced gentleness. The man did not flinch once, not even when it should have hurt. "That should sting," Ichun muttered. "It does. You're not reacting." "I do not see the benefit of reacting." Ichun glanced up sharply. Their faces were suddenly very close. Too close. For one suspended moment, neither moved. Then Ichun jerked back as if burned. "Okay, great, you're done," he said too quickly. "Congratulations on surviving basic medical care." He began packing the supplies away, trying very hard to ignore the strange tension that had settled in the room. "So," he said casually, "do you want to tell me what happened to you?" A pause. "I do not know." Ichun looked up. "What do you mean you don't know?" "I do not remember." "Remember what?" "Anything." The air seemed to thicken. Ichun studied him carefully now, searching for signs of deception. Panic, confusion, exaggeration. Instead, he found none. Just that same unsettling calm. "You don't remember your name?" A small shake of the head. "Where you live?" "No." "How you got hurt?" "No." Ichun leaned back slowly. "Well," he said after a long moment, "that's deeply inconvenient." The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence that followed. It was already late. Public transport had stopped running. Hospitals meant paperwork, police, complications Ichun was not equipped to handle at midnight with a stranger who had no identity. And yet, He couldn't ignore the way the man sat there, composed but visibly exhausted, as if sheer willpower was the only thing keeping him upright. "You can stay tonight," Ichun heard himself say. The man looked up immediately, not hopeful, not relieved, just intensely attentive. "On the sofa," Ichun added quickly. "Temporary, until we figure things out tomorrow." "Thank you." The sincerity in that simple statement hit harder than expected. Ichun cleared his throat and stood abruptly. "I'll get you a blanket." He returned with bedding and placed it on the sofa. "You sleep here," he said. "Bathroom is down the hall. Kitchen is off-limits unless supervised." "Understood." Ichun hesitated. "Can you manage on your own?" "Yes." Another pause. "Good." He turned toward his bedroom, then stopped. "Hey!" The man looked up again instantly. "If you feel worse, wake me up. Don't just suffer in silence like some tragic movie character." "I will wake you." Ichun nodded once and retreated into his room, closing the door behind him. But sleep did not come easily. Something about having another person in the apartment, a stranger yet not quite a stranger, made the space feel different. Charged, unsettled. After what felt like hours, Ichun finally drifted off. In the living room, the man remained awake. He sat on the edge of the sofa, blanket forgotten, eyes fixed on the closed bedroom door, as if listening, as if guarding, as if the quiet apartment contained something precious he did not yet understand, but had already decided to protect. He did not sleep at all. Chapter 3. Ichun woke to sunlight and the unfamiliar awareness that he was not alone in his apartment. For a few blissful seconds, he lay still, suspended between sleep and consciousness, mind empty except for the warmth of the blanket and the faint hum of morning traffic outside. Then memory returned all at once. The injured stranger, the amnesia, the fact that Ichun had, against all logic and self-preservation instincts, allowed a tall, suspiciously attractive unknown man to sleep on his sofa. He groaned softly and rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. "Great," he muttered. "Fantastic life choices." From the living room came a quiet clink, ceramic against wood. Ichun froze. Someone was in his kitchen. His brain supplied several unhelpful possibilities in rapid succession. Burglary, murder, identity theft, awkward small talk before coffee. He dragged himself out of bed and shuffled toward the door. Hair a mess, expression grim. The sight that greeted him stopped him cold. The stranger was standing at the counter, sleeves rolled up, carefully pouring hot water into Ichun's chipped ceramic mug, as if it were a delicate scientific procedure. Steam curled upward in the morning light. On the table sat 2 bowls of instant porridge, the cheap kind Ichun bought in bulk, prepared with surprising neatness. The man turned at the sound of footsteps. "Good morning." Ichun blinked. "Why are you cooking in my house?" "I located food." "That's not permission." "I apologize." "You keep apologizing and then doing things anyway." The man considered this seriously. "Noted." Ichun eyed the bowls suspiciously. "You didn't poison it, right?" "No, because that would be a really inefficient murder method." "I am not attempting to murder you." "Good. That would be awkward." Ichun reached automatically for the counter where he usually dropped his wallet. His hand closed on empty space. Right. Lost. Yesterday's disaster rushed back. The collision on the street, the scramble, the stranger collapsing, the chaos afterward. His stomach sank. "Great," he said under his breath. The man's gaze sharpened. "Is something wrong?" Ichun hesitated, then shrugged. "Just realized I don't have my wallet." "Where is it?" "If I knew that, it wouldn't be lost." A pause. "Is it important?" Ichun stared at him. "Yes," he said slowly. "It contains money, identification, cards, my entire ability to function in modern society." "I see. I also have let's check." He opened his phone, scrolling through his banking app, then winced. "Wow, that is a deeply depressing number." The man watched him closely. "Are you in danger? Financially?" "Yes." Ichun dropped into the chair and poked at the porridge. This is why I shouldn't do spontaneous acts of kindness, he muttered. First I lose my wallet. Then I adopt a mysterious amnesiac. You did not adopt me. Tell that to my grocery budget. A faint crease appeared between the man's brows. Not offense, exactly, but concentration. I will repay you, Ichun snorted. With what? You don't even know your name. That is a complication. Just a small one. Ichun took a reluctant bite of porridge. It was good. Not gourmet, but warm, properly mixed, not too watery, which meant the man had actually paid attention to instructions. You didn't have to do this, Ichun said more quietly. I wished to be useful. Something about the simple sincerity in that statement made Ichun's irritation soften. Well, thanks. The man inclined his head slightly, as if accepting something important rather than casual gratitude. Ichun sighed and rubbed his face. I'll have to cancel my cards, replace my ID, deal with the bank, maybe beg my landlord for a few extra days if rent bounces. Rent? Yes, people generally expect money in exchange for housing. The man absorbed this with visible seriousness, as though learning an unfamiliar rule of civilization. I will assist you. Ichun laughed helplessly. How? Silence. I do not yet know. That's comforting. A notification chimed on Ichun's phone. Lost and found. City Transit Authority. He opened it quickly. Someone turned in a wallet. He read aloud, hope flaring. But it has no cash. He sagged immediately. Of course it doesn't. The man leaned closer, scanning the screen. The movement brought him well inside Ichun's personal space. Too close. Ichun became abruptly aware of the warmth of his body, the faint, clean scent of soap, the way his shoulder nearly brushed Ichun's. Identification is still present, the man observed quietly. Yeah, Ichun said, voice suddenly less steady. That's something. Neither moved away. For a strange suspended moment, it felt less like two near strangers and more like something domestic, intimate. Like they had done this 100 times before. Ichun cleared his throat and scooted back abruptly. I'll pick it up later, he said too quickly. The man tilted his head slightly. Your heart rate increased. Ichun choked on air. Excuse me? It is audible. You can hear my heartbeat? Yes. That is deeply invasive. I apologize. Stop apologizing. Understood. He paused. I will reduce apologizing. Ichun stared at him. Please don't say it like that. It sounds like a software update. A sudden noise from the hallway outside. Footsteps. A door slamming somewhere. Made Guillen's posture change instantly. Subtle but unmistakable. His shoulders squared. His attention sharpened. His body angled slightly toward Ichun, as if placing himself between Ichun and the source of the sound. Protective. Instinctive. Ichun noticed. Something fluttered in his chest. Not fear. Not quite comfort. Something warmer. More dangerous. You really don't remember anything? He asked quietly. Guillen looked at him. No, he said. Only that you are safe. Ichun forgot how to breathe. Sunlight filled the apartment, turning the ordinary space into something unexpectedly gentle. 2 bowls on the table. Steam fading into the air. A stranger wearing Ichun's clothes. Silence that wasn't uncomfortable anymore. Ichun picked up his spoon again, hands steadier now. You can stay until we figure things out, he said without looking up. Temporarily. A pause. Thank you, Guillen said softly. This time it didn't sound like politeness. It sounded like a promise. Chapter 4. Ichun had planned a quiet morning of damage control. Cancel cards. Retrieve his wallet. Figure out how to survive the month without selling a kidney. Maybe pretend yesterday hadn't happened. Instead, he was speed-walking down the street with a tall amnesiac shadow half a step behind him, radiating the kind of presence that made pedestrians unconsciously move out of the way. This is weird, Ichun muttered. Guillen leaned slightly closer. What is weird? You, following me like a bodyguard. I am ensuring you do not collapse from financial distress. That is not a medically recognized condition. It appears severe. Ichun huffed despite himself. You don't have to come. I'm just picking up my wallet from the transit office. You lost it while assisting me. Yeah, but I am responsible. The calm certainty in his voice made arguing feel pointless. Also weirdly nice. Ichun shoved his hands into his pockets and tried not to smile. The transit office was crowded. Fluorescent lights, long lines, irritated commuters clutching paperwork like weapons. Ichun groaned under his breath. This is going to take forever. Guyen scanned the room once, expression sharpening slightly. Stand here, he said. Ichun blinked. What? Do not move. Before Ichun could protest, Guyen stepped forward, moving with quiet confidence straight to the counter. 3 people immediately started complaining. Hey, there's a line. Guyen didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten, didn't even look angry. He just looked at them. Something in his expression, calm, cold, immovable, made the protests die mid-sentence. Within seconds, he was speaking quietly to the clerk. Ichun stared. What just happened? 5 minutes later, Guyen returned, holding Ichun's wallet. Line. Destroyed. System. Bypassed. Reality. Questionable. Ichun gaped. How? You were waiting a long time. That's not an explanation. They located it quickly. You bullied a government employee with your face. Guyen considered this. Unintentional. Ichun snatched the wallet and opened it. ID present. Cards present. Cash gone. He sagged. Of course the universe hates me. Guyen watched him closely, like a scientist observing an emotional experiment. Is the situation catastrophic? I had rent money in there. A pause. Something shifted behind Guyen's eyes, subtle but unmistakable. Cold anger. Not at Ichun, at the situation. Who took it? He asked quietly. I don't know. Pickpocket, probably. Guyen's jaw tightened. For a moment, he looked like someone trying very hard not to do something drastic in a public building. Ichun nudged him with his elbow. Hey, relax. It's just money. You need it. Yeah. But it's not worth going full action movie. Guyen exhaled slowly, tension easing only slightly. Understood. Outside, the sunlight felt almost too bright after the office's artificial glare. Ichun flipped through his wallet again, calculating. Okay, he muttered. I can survive. Barely. If I eat like a raccoon for 2 weeks. A raccoon diet is inadvisable. It means instant noodles. I see. A beat. I don't approve. Ichun laughed. You don't get a vote. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Guyen stopped. Ichun nearly walked into him. What? Guyen gently caught his arm to steady him. Not rough. Not hesitant. Just firm enough to anchor. The contact sent an unexpected jolt up Ichun's spine. Wait here, Guyen said. Ichun opened his mouth to ask why, but Guyen had already crossed the street toward a convenience store. When he returned, he was carrying 2 bags. Ichun stared. What did you do? Purchased supplies. With what money? Guyen paused. A card was available. Ichun went very still. Whose card? I found it in my pocket. You had a card this whole time? I did not recall its purpose. Ichun grabbed the bag and peeked inside. Groceries. Actual groceries. Real food. Not instant noodles. Not survival rations. His throat tightened unexpectedly. You didn't have to do this, he said, quieter now. Guyen's expression softened. Not dramatically, just enough that it felt personal. You helped me, he said simply. This is just right. Ichun swallowed. Your card might get tracked, he said, trying to sound practical instead of emotional. That's okay. I am more concerned about you eating properly. Ichun stared at him like he'd just grown a second head. Who are you? Guyen held his gaze, something deep and unreadable flickering there. I don't know. For once, it didn't sound calm. It sounded frustrating. On the walk back, Ichun noticed something else. People kept looking at Guyen, not casually. Double takes, stares, subtle whispers. One guy even turned his head so hard he nearly walked into a pole. Ichen nudged Guiyen. You know everyone's staring at you, right? Why? Because you look like a celebrity who wandered out of a photo shoot. I am not a celebrity. Yeah. Well, try telling that to literally everyone with eyes. Guiyen glanced around, faintly puzzled, like he genuinely didn't understand the concept. Ichun felt an odd spark of possessiveness. Weird. He shook it off. Back at the apartment, Ichun dumped the grocery bags onto the counter. Okay, he said, clapping his hands once. New plan. Since you apparently have mystery credit card powers, we are cooking actual food. I will help. You don't know how. I will learn. Ichun handed him a knife. Don't cut off anything important. Guiyen accepted it with alarming competence. 5 minutes later, he was slicing vegetables with precise, efficient movements. Ichun blinked. Okay, that's suspicious. Muscle memory, perhaps. Great, so you might be a chef. Or an assassin. Guiyen looked thoughtful. I hope chef. Ichun snorted. As they worked side by side in the small kitchen, the space felt warmer, fuller, alive in a way it hadn't in a long time. Shoulders bumped occasionally. Hands brushed reaching for the same utensil. Neither moved away immediately. At one point, Ichun stretched to grab something from a high shelf. Guiyen stepped in automatically, reaching past him to get it. Too close, chest to back. Warmth. Breath near his ear. Ichun forgot what he'd been saying. Here, Guiyen murmured, handing him the container. Ichun took it carefully, acutely aware of every centimeter between them. Thanks, he said, voice slightly thinner than usual. Guiyen didn't step back right away. Ichun could feel his presence like gravity. Protective, intent, focused entirely on him. Then, slowly, Guiyen moved away. Ichun exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. When the food was finally done, they sat across from each other at the small table. Real food. Warm light. Quiet. Not awkward. Just comfortable. Ichun took a bite and closed his eyes. Okay, this is officially the best bad day I've had in years. Guiyen watched him, something soft settling into his expression. That is good. Ichun opened one eye. Don't get used to it. You're still temporary. Tiny pause. Understood, Guiyen said, but he didn't look convinced. Outside, evening crept closer, painting the windows gold. Inside, two near strangers shared a meal like they had been doing it forever. Neither of them realized how quickly temporary was becoming something else entirely. Chapter 5. By the afternoon of the second day, Ichun had officially run out of excuses. Guiyen was still in his apartment, still amnesiac, still suspiciously competent at everything except explaining himself. And the police had definitely expected an update. Ichun paced the living room, phone in hand, glaring at the number on the screen like it had personally betrayed him. I should call the officer, he muttered. Guiyen looked up from where he was assembling groceries with the focused intensity of someone defusing a bomb. If it is necessary, you should. That's not helpful. I can say you should not call. That's also not helpful. Ichun groaned and collapsed onto the sofa. When we left the station yesterday, they said to bring you back if your memory didn't come back. Which it did not. At all. Not even a little. A pause. I regret inconveniencing you. Ichun scrubbed his face. Stop being polite. It makes this harder. The truth was embarrassingly simple. Yesterday had been chaos, medical check, paperwork, statements, waiting rooms. By the time they were done, the officer had waved them off. Take him home for the night. Bring him back tomorrow if nothing changes. Tomorrow had arrived. Ichun had woken up to porridge, lost wallet panic, transit office drama, groceries, cooking, and somehow, not a single quiet moment to deal with reality. Also, and this part he refused to analyze too closely. He didn't want to. Returning Guiyen meant handing him over to a system. Hospitals. Holding rooms. Questions Ichun couldn't answer. Or worse, someone else claiming him. The thought made something unpleasant twist in his chest. He stood abruptly. Okay, I'm calling. The officer answered on the third ring. Transit Division. Hi, this is Chun. About the unidentified guy from yesterday. A brief pause. Yes, we were expecting you. Chen's stomach dropped. Right, sorry, it's been a hectic day. You should bring him in immediately. The tone had changed. Not annoyed. Urgent. Chen straightened. Did something happen? Another pause. Papers rustling. We received a report this morning. Someone is looking for him. Chen's gaze snapped to Guiyen. Guiyen was watching him now, expression sharp and intent, like he already knew the conversation mattered. You should bring him to the station. Chen lowered the phone slowly. Apparently someone's looking for you, he said. Guiyen went very still. Not confused. Not surprised. Still. Guiyen's eyes darkened, focus sharpening like a blade. For a split second, he didn't look like a lost man. He looked dangerous. We should leave, he said. Leave? Leave where? Anywhere not here. Chen stared. This is my apartment. You are in danger. I am always in danger. I walk across streets while texting. This is different. Something in his tone made Chen's chest tighten. Before Chen could respond, his stomach growled loudly. Both of them paused. I was planning to buy more groceries, Chen admitted weakly. Before the whole mysterious threat thing. Guiyen frowned slightly. Food is necessary. Great. Glad we agree survival matters. We will go together. Chen hesitated. Honestly, he didn't want to leave Guiyen alone now either. Fine, he said. Quick trip. No dramatic exits. The supermarket was crowded, chaotic, normal in the most aggressively mundane way possible. Chen grabbed a basket. Guiyen scanned the space like a security system. At the produce section, an older woman smiled warmly at Chen. Your boyfriend is very handsome, she said in a conspiratorial whisper. Chen choked. He's not. He looks very protective. Guiyen stepped slightly closer at that exact moment, hand hovering near Chen's back without touching. The woman beamed knowingly and walked away. Chen turned slowly. Did you hear that? Yes. And boyfriend implies exclusivity. Chen's brain short-circuited. That is what you focused on? Guiyen tilted his head slightly. Is it incorrect? Yes. A pause. Understood, Guiyen said, but his expression suggested he was filing the information for later review. Near the checkout, Guiyen suddenly grabbed Chen's wrist. Not rough. Urgent. We are leaving. What? Now. Chen followed his gaze. Two men in dark jackets had entered the store, scanning the aisles with deliberate attention. Not shoppers. Hunters. Cold fear slid down Chen's spine. Okay, he said faintly. Not dramatic at all. Guiyen guided him calmly toward a side exit, body angled protectively between Chen and the men. No panic. No rushing. Just controlled, purposeful movement, like he had done this before. Outside, they walked quickly down the block before turning into a side street. Chen's heart hammered. Who are they? I do not know. That is not comforting. They were searching. For you. Yes. As they approached the apartment building, a police car was parked out front. Chen stopped dead. Okay, that's either good news or terrible news. Guiyen stepped slightly in front of him. Protective. Automatic. From the building entrance burst Mrs. Han from 3B, neighborhood surveillance system in human form. Chen. Police are looking for you. Perfect. Love that. Why? Chen asked weakly. They said something about the man you brought home. She leaned closer, whispering loudly. Is he a criminal? Guiyen's expression went politely blank in a way that somehow made him look even more suspicious. One of the officers noticed them and approached. Mr. Chen? Yes. We need to speak with you about the unidentified individual. Before Chen could respond, the officer reached toward Guiyen. Guiyen moved. Not violently or not aggressively. Just fast enough to intercept the motion. Positioning himself slightly behind Chen, while maintaining a calm expression. "Do not touch him," he said quietly. Ichen's brain exploded. Protective instinct. Confirmed. Terrifying competence. Confirmed. Heart doing weird things also confirmed. The officer blinked, startled. "Sir, we're not here to hurt anyone." Guillen's gaze didn't waver. "I cannot assume that." Ichan grabbed his sleeve. "Guillen, it's okay." For a moment, the tension crackled like a live wire. Then slowly Guillen stepped back. But he did not move far. "We've identified him," the officer said carefully. "Let's discuss that inside." Guillen went very still beside him. Ichun suddenly had the terrible feeling that whatever came next was going to change everything. Chapter 6. The moment the apartment door closed behind the officers, the space felt too small for the truth that had just entered with them. Ichan hovered awkwardly near the couch, suddenly hyper-aware of the unwashed mug on the table, the blanket Guillen had been using, the quiet domestic evidence that a stranger had been living here for days. Guillen himself stood a step behind him, posture straight, expression unreadable, as if he had already guessed what was coming and was simply waiting for it to arrive. The senior officer set a slim folder on the table but didn't open it right away. He studied Guillen first carefully, like someone confirming a suspicion rather than making a discovery. "We've identified Guillen," he said at last. Ichan let out a small, relieved laugh. "Oh, thank God. So he has family, right? Or friends? Someone who can take him back." "He does," the officer interrupted. "But the situation is complicated." Something in his tone made Ichan's smile fade. The folder opened. A photograph slid across the table. Ichan leaned forward, then blinked. The man in the picture was unmistakably Guillen. Same sharp features, same dark eyes, same composed expression, but dressed in a tailored suit, standing beside older men in formal attire, the background suggesting some kind of high-profile event. He didn't look lost. He looked powerful. "Wait," Ichan said slowly. "Why does he look like he owns half the city?" No one answered immediately. The officer placed a second document beside the photo. A news clipping, printed from an online article. "Gu Group heir disappears. Family declines comment." Ichan read the headline twice before his brain processed it. Then he turned, very slowly, toward Guillen. "Heir." Guillen didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it either. He just met Ichan's gaze, silent. Like he knew this was the moment everything changed. The officer spoke again. "Guillen is the eldest son of the Gu family. Their corporation operates internationally, real estate, logistics, technology, finance. Privately owned, extremely influential, and extremely protective of their reputation." Ichan's mouth went dry. "You're telling me," he said faintly, "that the guy I picked up at a crosswalk is basically corporate royalty?" That would not be an inaccurate description. Another page slid forward. There was a public statement 3 days ago claiming Mr. Gu was traveling overseas on business. However, unofficially, multiple private parties have been searching for him. Ichan felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Searching, like worried relatives searching? Or something else? The officer hesitated just long enough to be alarming. "Both." Silence settled heavily over the room. Ichan finally looked directly at Guillen. "Is this true?" A long pause. Then quietly, "Yes." No excuses. No explanations. Just the truth, simple and heavy. Ichan ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before stopping again. Okay, hold on. So you're rich, famous, missing, and somehow ended up standing in the rain at a crosswalk like a tragic drama protagonist. Do I have that right? Guillen's lips pressed together, almost like he was holding back a reaction. More or less. More or less. Ichan repeated, voice cracking. That's not a more or less situation. The officers exchanged a glance but didn't interrupt. Ichan turned back to the table, staring at the photo again. In it, Guillen looked untouchable, composed, distant, perfectly controlled. Nothing like the man who had awkwardly asked how to operate a microwave or watched him sleep from the armchair like a guard dog that didn't know where else to go. Why didn't you say anything? Ichan asked softly. Gu Yan's voice was low. You did not ask. That is such a terrible defense. Another pause. Then, more quietly, I did not want you to treat me differently. That hit harder than Ichan expected, because he suddenly realized it was true. If he had known from the start, he would have been stiff, formal, careful. Not teasing, not relaxed, not himself. The easy closeness of the past 2 days would never have existed. The officer cleared his throat gently. The Gu family has not filed a missing person report with local authorities. Their internal security division appears to be handling the matter privately. Internal security? Ichan repeated. That sounds like something from a spy movie. It means people with resources, the officer said. And discretion. Translation. People who don't ask nicely. Ichan swallowed. Are they dangerous? Gu Yan answered this time. They will not harm you. That is not what I asked. A flicker of something. Guilt, maybe, crossed his expression. They want me to return home. And you don't, Ichan said quietly. Gu Yan didn't hesitate. No. The certainty in that single word was absolute. The officer closed the folder. Legally speaking, Mr. Gu is an adult. He is not under investigation, and no crime has been reported. We are only involved because of the circumstances of your initial encounter. In other words, Ichan said, you're washing your hands of this. We are advising caution. After a few final formalities, the officers left, the door clicking shut behind them with a sound that felt far too loud for such a small motion. Silence flooded back in. Ichan sat down slowly, like his legs might not hold him. So, he said weakly, you're rich. Gu Yan remained standing, hands at his sides, posture rigid. Yes. You ran away. Yes. You let me feed you instant noodles while apparently owning companies. Yes. Ichan stared at him. Then, despite everything, a disbelieving laugh escaped. That is actually offensive. For a split second, Gu Yan looked almost sheepish. I did not know how to explain. You could have started with, hi. I'm secretly wealthy and hiding from my powerful family. I suspected that would cause alarm. You think. Another silence fell, but this one felt different. Less like a bomb waiting to go off, more like the stunned quiet after an explosion has already happened. Ichan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice softer now. Why did you run away? Gu Yan didn't answer immediately. When he did, the words came slowly, like they were difficult to release. Because I was tired of being managed. Ichan looked up. Tired of being told where to go, what to say, who to meet, what decisions to make. Tired of being watched constantly. Tired of living a life that did not feel like mine. He paused, jaw tightening. I wanted to know what it was like to exist without permission. The honesty in that confession made something twist painfully in Ichan's chest. So you just walked away from everything? Yes. And then you forgot how to function as a normal person. A faint, reluctant exhale, almost a laugh. Yes. Ichan shook his head slowly. Unbelievable. Another pause stretched between them, charged and fragile. Then Ichan asked the question that mattered most. Are you going back? Gu Yan met his eyes. No. Not hesitation. Not uncertainty. Absolute refusal. Ichan's heartbeat quickened. Even if they come for you? Gu Yan's gaze didn't waver. I will handle it. That is not reassuring. A beat of silence. Then, quieter. I will not let them involve you. Something about the way he said it, calm, certain, protective, made Ichan's face warm unexpectedly. He looked away, muttering, You don't get to decide that alone. Gu Yan stepped closer. Not enough to crowd him. Just enough that Ichan could feel the shift in the air. You could still ask me to leave, Gu Yan said. The words sounded controlled, but there was tension underneath them, like he was bracing for impact. Ichan didn't even think. I'm not doing that. Gu Yan's eyes widened slightly. You understand what staying near me means. Yeah? Ichan said, forcing a crooked smile. It means I accidentally adopted a runaway billionaire with zero survival skills. For the first time, Gu Yan actually laughed. Quiet, surprised, real. The sound hit Ichan like a physical force. Dangerous, warm, disarming. Then Gu Yan said softly, I am glad it was you. Ichan's heart did something deeply unhelpful. He cleared his throat, looking anywhere but at him. Don't say things like that out of nowhere. Why not? Because it makes things weird. A small pause. Are they not already weird? Ichan opened his mouth. Closed it. Okay. Fair point. Neither of them moved. The space between them felt charged, fragile, like one wrong word could shatter it, or deepen it into something neither of them was ready to name. Outside, the city carried on as usual. Inside, everything had quietly changed. Chapter 7. Morning arrived too quietly for a day that was about to unravel everything. Ichan woke to the unfamiliar sensation of warmth that didn't belong to blankets or sunlight. For a few hazy seconds, he couldn't place it. Then memory clicked into place, and his eyes snapped open. Guyan was asleep on the couch across the room, except he wasn't fully on the couch anymore. At some point during the night, he had shifted closer, long legs stretched out, one arm hanging loosely off the side, close enough that if Ichan extended his foot just a little, he could touch him, which he absolutely did not do. Definitely not. Okay, maybe just a little. The contact was brief, accidental, and sent an absurd spark up his spine anyway. Ichan jerked his foot back like he'd touched a live wire. Get it together, he scolded himself. He is not a space heater. Guyan stirred, eyes opening almost instantly. Alert, focused, disorientingly sharp for someone who had been asleep seconds ago. When he saw Ichan awake, the tension in his shoulders eased. Good morning, he said quietly. Ichan sat up, trying to act normal while his heart pounded like he'd been caught committing a crime. You say that like this is a normal morning. Is it not? You're a missing billionaire hiding in my living room. Define normal. A faint curve touched Guyan's mouth. Not quite a smile, but dangerously close. Before Ichan could say anything else, a deep engine rumble rolled through the street outside. Not a passing car. Multiple vehicles. Heavy ones. They stopped directly in front of the building. Ichan's stomach dropped. Tell me that's not for you. Guyan was already on his feet, posture rigid, eyes dark. It is. A sharp knock echoed through the hallway outside, firm, controlled, unmistakably authoritative. Ichan whispered, Oh my God, what do I do? Do I hide you? Do I pretend you're not here? Do I faint? Guyan stepped closer, too close, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. Calm down, breathe. The simple contact grounded him more effectively than any pep talk. I will handle this, Guyan said. You handling things is exactly what scares me right now. Another knock, louder this time. Ichan opened the door before he could lose his nerve. 3 men stood in the hallway, all in dark suits, posture impeccable, expressions polite in the way that meant they were absolutely not to be messed with. Behind them, Ichan could see 2 black cars idling at the curb. Corporate extraction team. No question. The man in front inclined his head slightly. Good morning. We are looking for Mr. Gu. Ichan crossed his arms instinctively. Which Mr. Gu? Gu Yan. Guyan stepped forward behind him. I am here. The man's expression softened with visible relief. Young master, thank goodness. Your family has been extremely concerned. Young master. Ichan nearly choked. We've arranged transportation. Please return home. No, I won't go, Guyan said. No hesitation. No apology. Just refusal. The hallway went very still. The man tried again, voice gentler. Your father is waiting. I'm well aware. And your engagement announcement has already been postponed once. Ichan's brain short-circuited. Your what? Guyan's jaw tightened. Cancel it. I'm afraid that decision is not yours to make. Something dangerous flickered in Guyan's eyes. It is my life. And your responsibilities. Silence stretched thin. Ichan suddenly felt like an extra in a drama he hadn't auditioned for. One of the men glanced at him politely. "Sir, we apologize for the inconvenience. We will take Mr. Gu now. Take, not escort. Take." Ichan didn't even realize he had moved until he found himself standing slightly in front of Guyan. He said no. "Can't you hear that?" The men exchanged a brief look. Not annoyed, just recalculating. "Sir," the leader said calmly, "this is a family matter." "Yeah, and he's currently staying in my apartment. So it's also a building matter." Ichan shot back, voice shaking but stubborn. Behind him, Guyan went very still. Protective instinct colliding with something warmer, softer, more dangerous. The man sighed quietly. "Young master, please don't create unnecessary complications." Guyan stepped forward, his presence suddenly overwhelming, voice low and final. "I am not leaving." The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop. After a long moment, the men bowed slightly. "Very well. We will report your decision." They withdrew without another word. The cars outside remained for a full minute before finally driving away. Only then did Ichan realize he had been holding his breath. He turned around slowly. "Engagement." Guyan didn't answer immediately. "Yes." "To who?" "A business partner's daughter." "Do you love her?" "No, I don't. It was my parents' arrangement." The immediate, unhesitating answer hit harder than if he had paused. Ichan stared at him, something tight and unpleasant twisting in his chest. Arrangement. Of course it was. Because people like Guyan didn't get to choose. They got assigned lives. "So you ran away instead," Ichan said quietly. "Yes. And now they're going to drag you back. I won't allow that." His voice was calm, but his hands were clenched at his sides, knuckles white. Ichan exhaled slowly, forcing himself to lighten the mood before he drowned in emotions he didn't understand. "Well, on the bright side, now I know why you looked like you'd never used public transportation before." A ghost of a smile appeared. "I had not." Unbelievable. An hour later, they were out on the street again. Not because it was safe, because staying inside felt like waiting for lightning to strike. Also, Ichan had discovered a very practical problem. "You have no wallet," he said. "That is correct. No phone." "Yes." "No access to your infinite billionaire funds." "Also correct." "So congratulations," Ichan announced. "You are now financially dependent on instant noodles and my questionable budgeting skills." Guyan looked oddly pleased. "That doesn't trouble me. It troubles me." Thus began the shopping trip, which quickly became a disaster. Guyan walked through the supermarket like someone visiting an alien planet, examining items with intense concentration, as if they might reveal hidden secrets. He picked up a bag of rice. "Is this sufficient for one meal?" "That is 10 kilograms. Ichan answered deadpanned. "I see." He put it back very carefully. In the snack aisle, he stared at instant ramen like it was a philosophical puzzle. Why are there so many varieties of the same product? Because humanity runs on sodium and poor life choices. A teenage girl nearby squeaked and whispered loudly to her friend, "Oh my God, he's so handsome." Ichan felt something hot and unreasonable flare in his chest. Irritation. Definitely irritation. Not jealousy. Absolutely not. Guyan leaned slightly closer to him. "Did I do something incorrect?" "No," Ichan muttered. "You just accidentally started a fan club." "Oh." He frowned faintly. "Should I apologize?" "Please don't apologize for existing. It's already hard enough." Back at the apartment building, chaos was waiting. Mrs. Chun from 3B intercepted them immediately. "I heard expensive cars this morning," she said, eyes gleaming. "Are you in trouble? Are you secretly rich? Is he a celebrity?" Ichan smiled tightly. "We're just normal people." She looked at Guyan, then back at Ichan. "I don't believe you." Before he could respond, Mrs. Petrova from downstairs leaned out of her doorway. "If he is breaking your heart, I will poison him. I am not being... Why does everyone assume?" Guyan stepped slightly closer to him, eyes sharp. scanning the hallway like a bodyguard who had forgotten he wasn't on duty anymore. Protective mode activated. Ichan noticed, and his pulse did something deeply unhelpful. Later, after the groceries were unpacked and the door finally closed on the world, the apartment felt quieter than usual. Heavy, like something important needed to be said. Ichan leaned against the counter, watching Guyan methodically arrange items in the fridge with unnecessary precision. "You could go back," he said suddenly. Guyan froze. "I mean," Ichan continued quickly, "it would solve everything. No more suits showing up. No more drama. No more weird neighbor interrogations." Silence stretched. Then Guyan turned around. His expression wasn't calm anymore. It was raw. "I don't want to go back." The words were soft, but they hit like a hammer. Ichan swallowed. "Because of the engagement? That is part of it. Then what else?" Guyan hesitated, something he almost never did. Finally, quietly, "Because here, I can breathe." Ichan's chest tightened painfully. "No one watches my every move. No one decides my schedule. No one tells me what I am allowed to feel." He stepped closer. Too close. His voice dropped. "And because you treat me like a person, not an asset." Everything inside Ichan went very, very still. "That's a low bar," he said weakly. "It is not." They were standing only inches apart now, neither of them moving away. Guyan's gaze softened in a way that made Ichan's heart feel dangerously fragile. "If I return," he said quietly, "I will lose this." This hung between them, undefined but unmistakable. Ichan's breath caught. "You don't even know how long this will last." "I know." "Then why?" "Because even a short freedom is worth having." Silence. Guyan lifted his hand slowly, as if approaching something that might shatter, and brushed a loose strand of hair away from Ichan's face. The touch was feather-light, but it felt like a lightning strike. "Ichan," he said softly. For one suspended moment it felt inevitable, like something was about to cross a line neither of them could uncross. Ichan's voice came out barely audible. "Don't." Guyan froze. "Why?" "Don't look at me like that," Ichan whispered. "I won't survive it." The honesty slipped out before he could stop it. Guyan's composure cracked, just enough to reveal the emotion underneath. Intense, conflicted, frighteningly sincere. "I am trying very hard not to say something I cannot take back." Ichan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Then don't say it." A long pause. "Not yet," Ichan added quietly. Guyan lowered his hand, but he didn't step away. "I will wait," he said, and somehow that was worse, because it meant this wasn't a fleeting impulse. It was inevitable. Chapter 8. The knock came just after sunset. Not loud, not aggressive, but deliberate, the kind of knock that assumed the door would open. Ichan was halfway through chopping vegetables for dinner when it sounded, the knife pausing midair as his stomach tightened with instinctive dread. Across the small kitchen, Guyan looked up immediately, expression sharpening, shoulders going still in that way Ichan had learned meant he was bracing for something unpleasant. "They're back," Ichan said quietly. Guyan didn't ask who. He already knew. "I will speak to them," he said, stepping forward. "No," Ichan replied, wiping his hands quickly on a towel. "We'll speak to them." Guyan hesitated, not because he doubted himself, but because he clearly didn't want Ichan anywhere near whatever was waiting outside that door. Ichan forced a small smile. "If I faint, you can catch me." That is not reassuring. Too late. He opened the door before either of them could overthink it. The hallway was crowded. Not with security this time, but with people who carried authority without needing to show it. An older man in an immaculate suit stood at the front, posture straight, expression carved from stone. Beside him was a woman whose elegance felt sharp enough to cut glass. Behind them stood several assistants, silent and watchful. And next to the woman, a young woman in a pale coat, beautiful in a distant, polished way, hands clasped neatly in front of her. Ichan didn't need an introduction. Guyan stepped forward so quickly that his shoulder brushed Ichan's, placing himself slightly in front of him without even thinking about it. Father, he said, voice controlled. Mother. The air in the hallway dropped 10 degrees. The older man's gaze flicked past him, landing briefly on Ichan, assessing in a single glance that felt uncomfortably thorough. So this is where you chose to hide. I wasn't hiding. You disappeared without explanation. I needed space. You have responsibilities, his father replied evenly. Not preferences. The woman's expression softened slightly, though her eyes remained sharp. Yen, you worried us. Guyan didn't respond to the familiar nickname. Instead, he asked, why did you come in person? His father's gaze shifted to the young woman beside them. Because some matters require resolution. The woman stepped forward gracefully. Hello, she said to Guyan, voice gentle. It's been a long time. Ichan's grip tightened on the edge of the door. Guyan didn't return the greeting. Instead, he said very clearly, you're not my fiancé. Why are you here? The hallway went silent. Her smile faltered. Our families have already discussed. Discussion is not agreement. I didn't agree to anything. His father's expression hardened. Watch your tone. I'm stating the fact. The woman drew a slow breath, regaining composure. Your father asked me to come because we were concerned about you. Running away like this is not like you. It is exactly like me, Guyan said quietly. You simply didn't know me well enough to expect it. Ichan felt something twist painfully in his chest. Not quite jealousy, not quite relief, something messier than either. His mother spoke next, her voice cool and measured. Enough. This has gone on long enough. You will return home tonight. We can discuss everything privately. No. His father's eyes narrowed. You are not a child. Then stop behaving like one. Guyan's jaw tightened. I will not enter a marriage arranged without my consent. It's not merely marriage, his father said sharply. It is alliance, stability, future planning. But this is my life. I have the right to decide. And you will not throw it away for... His father stopped, gaze flicking again toward Ichan. A temporary distraction. Something dangerous flashed across Guyan's expression. He's not a distraction. The words landed like a dropped blade. Ichan's heart stumbled. His mother's eyes sharpened. Then what is he? Silence stretched. Then Guyan stepped back just enough to stand beside Ichan instead of in front of him. Not shielding him anymore. Standing with him. My choice, he said. The simplicity of it made the statement devastating. His father let out a quiet, humorless laugh. You would abandon everything for someone you met a few days ago? I'm not abandoning anything. You are abandoning your future. No, Guyan replied softly. I am choosing it. The hallway seemed to tilt. His mother's composure cracked first, frustration bleeding into her voice. You cannot be serious. You barely know him. Guyan's hand moved, slowly, deliberately, until his fingers brushed Ichan's. Not gripping, not dramatic, just touching. But he didn't pull away. I know enough, he said quietly. Ichan's breath caught. His father's gaze dropped to their hands, expression turning cold. If this is rebellion, it's childish. It's not rebellion. Then what is it? Guyan turned toward Ichan fully now, eyes softening in a way that made the world narrow to just the two of them. It is love. Everything stopped. Ichan forgot how to breathe. You, he managed weakly. You didn't just. I did. His voice was steady, but there was something fragile underneath, like he had just stepped off a cliff and was waiting to see if there was ground below. I didn't intend for this to happen, Guyan continued, eyes never leaving Ichan's face. I didn't plan it. I didn't seek it. But once it existed, I could not ignore it. Ichan's vision blurred. You found me when I had nothing, Guyan said softly. No identity, no direction, no certainty about what I was allowed to want. You treated me like I mattered before you knew who I was. You stayed even after you learned. His fingers tightened slightly around Ichan's hand. I won't go back to a life where this does not exist. The silence in the hallway was absolute. His father's voice cut through it like steel. If you are serious, Then prove it. Guyan didn't look away. How? Get engaged with him. Ichan's brain short-circuited again. Excuse me. If this is not a passing infatuation, if you truly intend to build a future with him, then formalize it. Publicly, legally, without conditions. His mother added coolly, otherwise, we will assume this is a phase that will pass once you return home. The young woman beside them lowered her gaze, composed but pale. Guyan didn't hesitate. I will gladly do that. Ichan whipped his head toward him. You didn't even consult me. Guyan's expression softened instantly. I won't force you. That was worse. If you refuse, he said quietly, I will still remain here. I will still choose you. But I cannot promise my family will stop interfering. His thumb brushed lightly against Ichan's knuckles, almost unconsciously. I would prefer to protect you properly. Ichan stared at him, heart racing so fast it hurt. Are you proposing to me right now because your parents are watching? No, Guyan said. I am proposing because I am afraid you might say no later if I do not ask now. The honesty knocked the air out of him. You're impossible, Ichan whispered. And you're serious? Yes. Silence. Then very quietly, okay. Guyan blinked. Okay? He repeated, like the word didn't compute. Yes. Okay, Ichan said, voice trembling but firm. But if you turn out to be a terrible fiancé, I reserve the right to complain loudly. Something in Guyan's expression broke open. Relief, joy, disbelief all at once. I will accept that condition. Behind them, his father gave a single sharp nod, as if a negotiation had concluded successfully. We will arrange the formalities. No, Guyan said immediately. Nothing elaborate. Nothing public yet. His mother raised a brow. And why is that? Because this is ours first, he said simply. For the first time she looked almost thoughtful. After a long moment, she inclined her head slightly. All right. The family withdrew, the tension dissolving with them like a storm moving past the building. When the hallway finally emptied, Ichan leaned back against the door and slid down until he was sitting on the floor. I think I stopped functioning somewhere in the middle of that. Guyan knelt in front of him without hesitation. You didn't. I agreed to marry you while holding a dish towel. That doesn't matter. Ichan laughed weakly, then looked up at him. You're really not going back, are you? No. Never. Even if it means fighting your family forever? Guyan's gaze softened. I am not fighting them. Then what are you doing? Waiting for them to understand. He reached out slowly, giving Ichan time to pull away. And when he didn't, Guyan cupped his hand gently, warmth spreading through the contact. I have already chosen, he said quietly. Something fragile in Ichan's chest finally settled. Good, he murmured, because I'm not giving you back. Guyan's breath caught. A small, unguarded reaction that felt more intimate than any dramatic declaration. Carefully, almost reverently, he leaned forward and rested his forehead against Ichan's. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just closeness. Warmth. Promise. Outside, the city continued as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Inside, everything had changed. And for the first time since that rainy crosswalk, both of them knew exactly where they were going. Together. Epilogue, Guyan. He had noticed Ichan long before the crosswalk. Not in a dramatic way. Not love at first sight. Just repeatedly. The man who always waited for the pedestrian signal even when the street was empty. The man who stopped to pick up dropped papers for strangers. The man who argued politely but stubbornly with a vendor who tried to undercharge him. Kindness, Guyan had learned, was usually performative. Ichan's wasn't. It was inconvenient, inefficient, quiet, real. When the pressure at home had become unbearable, expectations tightening like a noose, decisions made for him before he could speak. Guyan had not chosen a destination when he left. He had chosen a direction, toward the one place that felt human. Seeing Ichan again at the crosswalk had felt less like coincidence and more like gravity finally pulling him somewhere he was meant to land. The rest had been improvisation. He had not planned to lose his identification. He had not planned to be taken to the police station. But when they asked if anyone could take responsibility for him for one night, and Ichan hesitated only briefly before saying yes, something inside Guyan had settled. Safe. Not because the apartment was secure. Because Ichan was there. He had pretended ignorance at first, unsure how to explain himself without dragging danger into Ichan's life. But the longer he stayed, the harder it became to imagine leaving. Ichan talked to him like he was normal, teased him, fed him, scolded him for not understanding basic things, looked at him without calculation or expectation. No one had ever done that before. Love, Guyan realized slowly, was not lightning. It was accumulation, moment by moment, choice by choice. The way Ichan checked if he was warm enough. The way he hovered nearby when Guyan seemed uncertain. The way he never asked for anything in return. By the time his family found him, the decision had already been made. He was not running away from them. He was running toward someone. Now, lying awake in the quiet apartment while Ichan slept in his arms, Guyan allowed himself something he had not permitted in years. Contentment. Carefully, so as not to wake him, he pressed a soft kiss into Ichan's hair. "I would have chosen you even without the chaos," he whispered. Ichan stirred slightly, unconsciously leaning closer. Guyan's hold tightened, protective, certain. For the first time, the future did not feel like a cage. Felt like a home.